There, the debate about the nature, scope and complexities of post-colonial museums have brought important results. In those countries, the point of view of the colonizer was extreme, the contradictions evident after decolonization, and to some extent, therefore, easier to reverse. There, new experiments have strongly suggested not only taking into consideration the First Nations and their history, they have also suggested going beyond the dichotomy, colonizers, colonized, in search of more complex and often less easy concepts of hybridity of cultures. In those countries, and in Africa, at least in some cases, the possibility to identify interstices where intersubjective and collective experience of cultural value are negotiated. There, at least in some cases, change and innovation have prominently taken place, showing new paths not only for a profound renewal of the former colonial museums, but also for our European history museums. Recently published books, some of them also edited or written by people who are in this room, have dealt with this complex, if not systematically, which is probably difficult to do given the broad range of different museums involved, but at least by providing a broad and detailed pictures. Problems like the one of memory of forgetfulness and reconciliation, and the complexity of an extremely uncomfortable and painful past are at the center, at the core of some of these books. And elsewhere, as in the case for Ireland, it has been preferred to use the concept of hegemony, which makes it possible to go beyond the stark colonizer-colonized dichotomy and to articulate the discourse better by grasping the elements of national identity construction that have been pushed, many contributions made by contact among cultures into the background. The World ICOM Conference in 2010, held in Shanghai, focused on the ironic and to some extent ironic topic of museums for social harmony, proposing ideals of social harmony which they cover profound conflicts or representing minorities. I am more interested in museums that face difficult issues and set an interactive public space against the well-hierarchized and silent space of the connoisseur. Their debate has been part of both curators' policy and memory politics, a place to talk the future of the citizens. I want to talk here very briefly about one example which I found very interesting, the District 6 Museum in Cape Town, South Africa. In my opinion, one of the most outstanding cases associated with the idea of the community museum. Created in 1994, in the first year of democracy, this museum took an active voice in advocating the restitution of the area to its community, which had been expelled through the implementation of the Apartheid States Group Areas Act. During the process of land claiming, the museum consistently asked questions about how a restitution and redevelopment process, with its primary focus on housing and integrated urban development, could give attention to issues of history and memorialization. And the story of this museum is directly related with the creation of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. In fact, they were both engaged in unearthing past and recording memory of traumatic experiences as well as in defending human rights and constructing a site of healing of memories. Maybe because of these reasons, the District 6 Museum has emerged as a combative and contested form of public scholarship, a hybrid space which combines scholarship, research, collections, the formation of a sound archive, in short, the capability of making and remaking itself constantly, thus representing the opposite of the inertia and stasis of traditional museums. Yet, in this case, the community was real and not imagined, and as in the well-known Benedict Anderson's definition of the nation. This prompts a question. Is this kind of involvement only possible at local grassroots level? Is it possible to create such a strong participation in the case of National Museum? As for Europe, I will not try to provide an overall treatment of the situation now. Rather, I shall focus on one particular case, the case of the proposal recently advanced for a National History Museum in Italy. The Italian proposal invites us also to consider two equally controversial cases, that of the French Maison de l'Histoire de France, connected with the Grand Débat sur l'identité nationale, and that of the Dutch National History Museum. This comparative approach will show that whilst in France and Holland the campaign for a National History Museum has been carried forward by politicians, in Italy it has been advanced by intellectuals, albeit intellectuals with prominent public roles. Instead, politics seems to have remained silent in Italy, and perhaps not by chance, given the scant interest shown by the government in museums and the country's heritage in general. The Italian case is characterized, but in this it is not alone, by a lack of a national history museum. And for that matter, Italy also lacks a national museum in the sense that Sweden, for example, has one. Yet, major anniversaries offer opportunities to mount projects that would normally be beyond the scope of museums and which are likely to develop into museums sooner or later. And this is what is happening in Italy now. Prompted by the celebration of recent months, 150 years of the Italian nation state, Ernesto Galli della Loggia, a historian and editorialist for the influential national daily newspaper Il Corriere della Sera, and a scholar of ancient history, Andrea Carandini, submitted a proposal for the creation of one Italian history museum to the President of the Republic and announced it from the columns of the Corriere. The Italian case, which does not strike me as having the robustness of a model, rather it combines disparate and partly contradictory elements together with a good deal of randomness, does belong in a European context, distinguished by the new museums of the East, which resume strong nationalistic elements stemming from the collapse of the communistic bloc, and in Western Europe, the recent construction of a Catalan museum, also markedly nationalistic, the refashioning of the Museum of Scotland, and others. A proposal for a museum of Basque national history has recently been put forward. In Spain, as José Lanzarote will investigate within UNAMUS, a new museum proposal is linked with a debate on history which has been taking place since the 1990s, fostered by diverse social and institutional actors, including political parties, regional governments, Catholic Church, or the armed forces, so that the concept of historical memory has moved to the forefront of the public debate. At the origin of this movement is the grassroots initiative in different parts of the country to unearth the mass graves and give proper burials to the victims of Francoist repression. A recent project to renovate an old national museum, the Museum of the Spanish Army, has become entangled in the debate on the historical memory. A proposal for a Dutch National History Museum emerged in the early 90s from a double background. On the one hand, the rebuilding of the Rijksmuseums risked reducing the Department of National History. On the other, a failure was identified in the general knowledge of Dutch history. Mounting criticism of multiculturalism, the murders of Pim Fortuyn and Theo van Gogh, the intention to increase integration speeded up the idea of constructing a canon of Dutch history as a cornerstone for a common identity. New national historical museums seemed the right institution to reinforce that canon by acting as a watchtower.